for years, you tried to communicate how you were feeling. Like you wanted me to see your pain. You wanted me to understand your pain. And because I wasn't open to empathizing or putting myself in your shoes, you went from wanting me to see and understand your pain to wanting to inflict pain.
What's up, real ones? Welcome back to the Real Relationship Podcast, where we're bringing the real back to relationships.
Yes, sir.
I'm Asha Steele.
I'm Devin Steele.
And we're so excited that you guys are tuning in today.
Yeah, we got another good episode for y'all. And we feel like y'all think that these episodes are good too, because what just happened to us this past week, Asha? You
we
gonna
were
let them know?
Climbing the chart, you guys, okay?
All the way up the chart. So we got the top.
Charts.
We was the number 6 podcast on the Kids and Family Apple Podcast, which is huge, man. So shout out to everybody out there that subscribed to our podcast, who shares our podcast with the people that you love and you care about, because this community is strong. I know one day we're going to get on here and we're going to tell y'all we the number 1 podcast on Kids and Family on Apple. But for right now, we just grateful that this podcast is really having an impact on the world and is really helping all of our real ones build relationships that are happy and healthy.
Yeah. So if you haven't already, make sure you go check out the podcast, leave a review, tell a friend to leave a review, tell them to check it out. And let's just keep topping this chart. Let's keep it. Let's go to number 1. That's what we're trying to get
and
to.
If y'all leaving reviews, tag us on Instagram, Real Relationships Podcast. We want to see them. Like, we go onto Apple and we look at the reviews as much as possible. But when you tag us on social media, not only do we get to see them more often, but you're able to spread the message about this podcast if you really think that this podcast can help people impact their relationships or their marriages in a positive way. So shout out to y'all.
Yes, you guys. So before we get into today's episode, I'm going to just keep it real with y'all, because y'all know I've been keeping it real for quite some time.
Yeah.
These past couple episodes, I've been having to keep
You
it
ain't
real with
giving
y'all,
me
right?
no chance, but
okay?
go ahead.
And I'm going to have to keep it real today, okay? Because the mom life, the wife life, right? It's a lot.
It is.
It is a lot. And it's exhausting, okay? Let's just say that, right? A lot of times you don't get to pour into yourself as much as you would like, because you're pouring out to so many people and you're having to do so many things, so many tasks. It's like when I wake up, it's immediately on go.
Yeah.
Half the time I don't even be ready to wake up, okay? Aria wakes me up when she's ready to get up, okay? And then Amaya gets up and it's just like, okay, you don't have no more time to sleep. It's time to get up.
And they doing this in the summertime too.
Yes.
They waking up at 7:00 in the summertime on the weekends.
Yes.
Which is crazy. Like, the weekends we supposed to be able to sleep in, but here Amaya is, she want to get fed, so she comes into the bed, and then Aria is just all over the place with high energy early in the morning. It's a lot.
And she's so sweet. It's hard to just be like, girl, go back to sleep.
Because she comes and kisses you, and she says, "Good morning, Mom. Good morning, Dad.
Good morning."
How did you sleep?
You're like, okay, I guess I gotta wake up. I woke up to a good alarm clock, I guess, but dang, I don't be ready.
You be giving me that look. You know how when you be so tired you can't even open up both eyes at the same time?
Oh my goodness.
You'll look at me with one eye to see what I'm about to do, and then you'll just go back to sleep. Like, it's crazy. It's a struggle out here in these streets.
It's a lot. So I try to get back to me, right? Get back to Asha, or at least try to redefine who Asha is, right? And be able to pour into myself. So I have wanted to, pick up a hobby for quite some time, because it's just like, what am I going to do in my spare time that's going to make me happy and excited and feeling rejuvenated and just, wanting to do something for myself outside of the norm. And so I started guitar lessons, you guys, okay? Your girl is on the way to giving her a run for her money. Okay. Okay. But no, I had started guitar lessons, and when I tell y'all, it has been, and mind y'all, the guitar lessons is probably like a half an hour to 45 minutes sometimes. So it's not that long, but the sessions that I have, it has been so rejuvenating to go in and just try something new. You got to think about it. Like, most of the time as adults, we don't really try too many new things, right? As a kid, when you're growing up, it's like you're trying new sports, you're trying new activities, you're learning new things. And when you're an adult, you get in the routine of the same old, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just to go outside of my norm and try something new has been really refreshing. And it's like, okay, I may have learned one chord, but I'm gonna play that chord.
Was you nervous your first lesson? Because like you talked about, right now your lessons is only 30 minutes, and I got Asha these lessons for Mother's Day because she had talked about wanting to learn how to play the guitar for a while now. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go out there and do it. Like sometimes you just gotta throw people in the fire.
Mm-hmm.
So she started her guitar lessons a couple of weeks ago. What was it like your first guitar lesson?
Oh, it was a little nerve-wracking. Okay, mind you, I'm like, it was like I was just like I've been wanting to do this for so long, but like you said, you threw me into the fire. So it was like, oh, you got a guitar lesson, like let's go. And it's just like, okay, I ain't give myself no time to warm up to it, so let's just do it. But it was kind of nerve-wracking because it's just like it's something so new, right? And so for me, as I unfortunately, it's a very bad habit of mine that I picked up since doing hair. But it's like I try to be like a perfectionist with things. Like I want to get it right, and it's like, girl, you ain't never play no guitar. Mm-hmm. Let's just relax, bring it back to the beginning. So it's like I'm taking baby steps, right? So I was just like, oh my goodness. And some of the notes that I was trying to play, the strings that I was playing, it was like, ooh, that sounds crazy. But
you had nails on your first one, which makes it harder to play the acoustic guitar.
My instructor had told me, he was like, I don't know about them nails. I don't know how that's going to work. But, so this time going in, I'm prepared. I took the nails off. I'm ready to take this serious. This is something I'm really trying to do. Because I told Devin, I have this vision, you guys, for my future self as a guitarist, okay? And it's just, I don't know why. Should I give them my
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if I should. Maybe I should just let them see it.
No. We need to make a public declaration about this so you stick to it.
So listen. So I have this vision in my head of going on vacation with my husband somewhere tropical, and just waking up at the crack of dawn before the sun rises. Just with my guitar, playing my guitar, like having this melody and this song in my head, just playing it as the sun rises and the wind is just blowing through my hair and the tropical breeze and the ocean. You hear the waves crashing. Y'all feel it? Y'all
naked on the sand?
No, I'll have on a bathing.
We're going to a new beach.
I have this whole vibe that I just have for myself. It's just like just playing music in a tropical place, because I love music. Like I love music. So just being able to play an instrument and like I feel like when you get into it, like just allowing the musician or the music to come from within you is not even like a song. It's just like you're just playing to the tune of what you feel in your body or you feel in your mind. And so I just envision that for my future self.
Yeah, I look forward to it because like you said, right now you're just now starting off, and anytime you start something new, it can be stressful. Right, because you're trying to be that perfectionist, you're trying to be the best at it, but you're a beginner. But I'm interested to see what it does for your well-being, because once you get used to this, once you get confident in it, and you no longer have to put as much thought into the process, because now it's just flowing inside of you. You can get to that flow state that's so crucial for your well-being, where it's like you just lose sense of time, you lose thought about all the stressors that you're dealing with in your life, and you're just focused on that one moment of playing the music. So I look forward to your progress, to just see how you continue to get better at it, and how, like you say, you're able to find yourself, because you dedicate a lot of time to our family, to being a wife and to being a mom, and to see you be able to take time for yourself and do something that you always wanted to do. I think it boosts my well-being. Yeah. To let you just get out the house, go do you. You know what I mean? But before we switch the subject, we're not going to let you get away that fast. I don't know if you saw me, but I brought this guitar in here because we want to hear that one note that you was talking about. Here you go.
Listen here.
We need to hear that one note that you learned in class. And I'm going to put my microphone close to the guitar so everybody can hear this little note.
Y'all, you always want to put me on the spot.
Matter of fact, I'm going to put your microphone there.
The chair is not cheering. It's not the...
Your finger better be fingering. Pause. Let's see what you got.
That's me warming up, y'all.
Okay, it's starting to sound like something. Clap it up for that. I clap it up for that. Nah, man, it's dope. It's dope to see you smile this much and just to find this much joy outside of the home.
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool to see. But yeah, to see the progress you made with an hour worth of classes.
Yeah, it's just the basics, but yeah.
All right.
Let's see where I'm at next time. This time next year, you know, I might
next year. No, you gonna have to come back a couple of weeks from now.
No.
You want to play something for our birthday?
No, I'm gonna play something. I'm saying as far as like where I'm at a year from now, the growth that I have. You know, right. I want it to be like everybody. Oh, there go Asha and her guitar. She about to play a song today.
I think you can do it.
Yeah.
Because like I said, you really enjoy doing it, and I can tell that you really into this.
Yes.
So I look forward to seeing your growth. So since we just got that nice little tune out of Asha, I think it's time that we hop into our topic for today, which is what is the score? Mm-hmm. This topic is really about how oftentimes you'll see in a marriage or a relationship that when there's marital dissatisfaction or there's relationship dissatisfaction, you will see partners or couples start to keep score about what they're doing to try to help out their relationship and what their partner is not doing. My question to you, Asha, is do you feel like you keep score in our marriage, or have you ever kept score, and what about?
So I feel like yes.
Okay.
I feel like I have kept score as far as I feel like it's been a little bit of both, the negative and the positive.
Okay.
And I feel like it's initially stemmed from, I want to say, the negative, because like we talked about before, how rocky our relationship was at one point, right? How we was withdrawn from each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like during that time period, and we discussed this as well on another podcast, I was definitely unintentionally, not even being aware of it, I was keeping score of the things that I felt was a issue for me, right?
Right.
So if it was maybe you, like you said, you were withdrawn, so maybe you're not realizing how something may have affected me, or maybe it was something that you said or a way that you reacted that I was mentally keeping score of.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it until it was like, oh, when you see how this has affected you and you bring it up, right? And then you're going through this Rolodex of things in your head that is like, oh, well, this happened and that happened. And if I present it to you, where most people probably feel like, it's like, well, dang, I didn't know you had all this, you know, built up, or all of this that you had to talk about. So I definitely feel like during that time period, I was for sure keeping score of a lot of things that were negative and how it affected me.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I didn't necessarily present it to you until I felt like the timing was right, in a sense.
Is the timing ever really right? Because I think that happens a lot in the relationships, mm-hmm. where things happen, and instead of addressing it right then and there, we'll allow things to continue to pile up. We'll allow the score to pile up. And then when we feel like this continuously happens, then I just start to tell my partner everything that they're doing and everything that they're not doing all at once. And then that's where you get the person to completely shut down.
Yeah. I think that's a big thing that we worked on, as well as being able to understand that the keeping score, it wasn't really, like you said, a time that was right for us to do it, or for me to do it. And we talked about and we worked through this, like when there was an issue or something was to occur, it was way more beneficial to address whatever was going on in that moment. And it may not have been in the moment, like in that very second, because a lot of times when you do have an issue or something's bothering you, if you address it right in the moment, it can escalate to something else, right? Yeah. So instead of it just being like, oh, I'm so upset and I'm so passionate about this and I want to say something because I'm so frustrated, maybe it was me taking time to just be like, all right, let me just take an hour or a few hours, maybe go for a walk, maybe do something to kind of withdraw from that state of frustration and anger, that heightened level,
self-soothing,
right? Something to self-soothe me, to bring me down, to be like, okay, let me think rational and realize how I can go into the conversation with you so that it's not being escalated to an argument or something else, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think from doing that, it helped to be able to say, okay, now I don't have to keep score of this something. Oh, this is just something else negative that I have an issue with that I'm gonna throw back here. And once we get into a heated argument or once we get into a disagreement, I'm going to just roll them out like this, right? Because then
pull
it's
out
like,
your phone and your little notes app,
right?
and start
Then it's
going
like,
down the list.
well, dang, like I didn't even know, and I feel like that hurts your relationship so much more because it's just like when you do that, it makes your partner feel like there is so many things wrong with them, right?
Yeah.
You start to think like, oh, well, to me, I feel like I've experienced this somewhat as well. It's like, is there something wrong with me? Like you have a whole list of things that you're saying, oh, this is a problem, or you feel like this is an issue, versus just being in that moment, we're able to discuss it, you know?
Yeah. No, I've done the same thing. I've also kept score unknowingly, sometimes knowingly. And this is when we was going through a lot in our relationship. One specific thing that I kept score on, and we talked about this in the relationship before, on our podcast before, is where you were emotionally drained, right? Because I wasn't taking the necessary steps to make sure that your emotional tank was filled up. And when your partner's drained emotionally, it's hard for them to express love physically or affection physically. So one of the things that I would keep score on is how much I was the initiator of sex. And that caused a lot of arguments between us because it's like, yo, I'm initiating this amount of times and you're not really doing it. And then me and you would really butt heads on this. And we're going to have an expert come on here soon who is an expert in intimacy, emotional and physical, because this happens a lot in marriages where one person is the initiator and then the other person is the one who makes the decision of whether it's going to happen or not. And oftentimes when that one partner is the initiator and they get shut down, it's like they just completely give up. So then that's how, you know, couples end up going from being in an intimate relationship to feeling like they're just roommates.
Right.
So one of the things that I kept score on was that, and I had to learn how to let that go. You know what I mean? To find out what I could do to make you feel more secure and make you feel emotionally whole so that we're working together as a team. Because I think that that's one of the ways that keeping score hurts relationships, is that you're no longer a team now. Like, you're opponents. You're trying to see how much you're doing for the relationship and how much they're not doing. So you're actually going up against each other. And I think as we started to become more educated on the impact that this was having on our marriage, we started to make that shift, as you talked about, where it's like, no, we're not keeping score of the negative things, but let's keep score of the positive things that are going on. And we talk about the 5-to-1 ratio where you need 5 positive interactions for every 1 negative interaction. So now we're keeping score of how many times we're having these positive interactions with each other, because as you may attest to, when you are keeping score about the negative things, they have so much of a greater impact that you don't even notice the positive things that your partner may be doing because you're so focused on what they're not doing that you miss out on the opportunity to really connect with each other.
Right. I think the biggest thing that you can do is to keep score of the positive things, because it not even balances out, but it kind of takes away or limits the way that you perceive the negative things, like you said, right? So when, for example, if we was to get into an argument and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is something else that, you know, you did, he didn't do this. And I'm like so frustrated about it. And I'm just adding it on versus me saying, you know what, the other day he just decided to go out and, you know, get me flowers just randomly. Or the other day he saw that I was so tired and he decided to cook because he knew I was so drained from doing all this housework. So he decided to say, hey babe, I'll cook tonight, right? And it could be the littlest things, but you just being able to acknowledge and keep track and keep score of all of those things add up, because then you're not going to look at the negative thing as so grand anymore, right? It's not going to make you so frustrated because you're going to cut that person some slack, because you're like, well, dang, they definitely helped me out with this, or they did this, or they're actually putting forth more intention to try to, you know, make these positive interactions and have this balance. And so I'm not so frustrated with, oh, he didn't take the trash out, you know? And I think that's really important in a relationship. And that, like you said, that was something that we worked on, but now it's to the point where it's like, I don't necessarily focus on what negative didn't happen. Yeah. And it doesn't affect me to that degree, because a lot of times when you do, or when we have kept score, you're magnifying the negative thing to like something that is completely not, because you're constantly piling stuff on. So it's like, oh, like I said, oh, the trash didn't go out. Well, why didn't you take the trash out? You're never taking the trash out. Like, you always forgetting to do this. And contempt, right. And so you're attacking that person's character instead of the action that happened, and it's magnified. And instead of doing that, it's just like, you know what? He was doing something. He got sidetracked. He forgot to take the trash out. Well, maybe I'll take it out because I realized that he's not doing something. Yeah. So now we're balancing each other's out, and we're actually both doing something positive to help each other out. I think when you're able to look outside of yourself and how things are affecting you and see it from your partner's perspective and kind of be understanding, it helps, because it's like, first of all, like you said, we're a team, and we're not opponents. So I'm not feeling like I have to be combative with him and one up or go back and forth with him. I want to actually help him out, and he wants to do the same in return for me. So when you look at it and shift your perspective and rationalize things differently, I think it helps to really create a different dynamic for your relationship.
Yeah, I think you just brought up a really good point where you talked about how when you're keeping score in a relationship, and I just put it out there, like sometimes this is natural to do, where it's like you don't even, like we touched on earlier, you're not even meaning to keep score. It just so happens that you're keeping score. But once you become aware of it, you have to then do something about it, because when you're keeping score in your relationship, it produces resentment. You start to feel resentment to your partner. Like, I'm carrying all this weight and you're not carrying yours. You're not doing this, that, and the third. And you start to build up this resentment where you start to, like, you become enemies with your partner. And then that produces the contempt. You start to feel like you're better than, because you feel like you're doing more. So you start to talk down on your partner as if you're not doing anything wrong. Right. Like, it's easy to see when somebody else is doing something wrong, but it's harder to look yourself in the mirror and say, well, I can be doing this better. So I think that one of the cures to overcoming keeping score in a relationship is something you touched on, which is gratitude. Looking for the positives in your partner, because they're there. Right. But just the negative things have more of an impact on us, because that's what our brains are designed to do, is to look for the negative in situations to try to protect ourselves so that we can survive. And you have to redesign your brain to see your partner in a more positive light, see the positive characteristics, see the positive traits, see the positive things that they do around the household, the things that they do for your family, so that y'all can continue to grow. But you have to become aware of it and then make the decision to change, which is something I think that we did a great job of doing, because even when we talked about the first couple of years were really rocky and we were going to marriage counseling, and then they would give us certain type of exercises to do. And then maybe one week you're the one who's initiating those things. And you're like, man, Devin's not putting in enough effort. So how long am I going to continue to put myself out there if he's not going to do the same thing? Or maybe it's one week where I'm doing it. And I'm like, yo, like, come on, man. I'm trying to do what is necessary in order to make our marriage last and thrive. So why aren't you stepping up to the plate? Right. And it never really worked when we took that approach. But when we sat down and we said, look, if this is what we really want to do, if we want this marriage to last, then we both have to put in effort. And the thing is, it's not always going to be 50-50. Like, it's not always going to be balanced, but having an understanding of what your partner is going through at a certain time and what they're capable of putting in, because other things are pulling them away, will allow you to have more gratitude. Like, man, this guy working 60-hour shifts. I know he can't, do all this for our relationship right now, but I appreciate the fact that he took out a couple of hours this week to sit down and really work on it. It's not as much as I would hope for, but you can tell he's putting in an effort. Because one of the things that you will learn is that you're building up these habits over time. So things are not going to change in a blink of an eye. If you're expecting your partner to change right now, just because you had a conversation about something, it's not going to happen. They may make some progress, take 2 steps back, But if y'all are on the same page that, listen, whatever we got to do to make this work, we're going to do, but we also have to give each other grace that this is not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, you just said the word I was about to say for sure is not even just gratitude, but it's just offering your partner grace.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it doesn't happen overnight. And even once you do get the habit and the pattern, the routine of doing it, it's times where it will still show up, right? Because it's forever going to be something that you have to implement, that you have to work on. And I think being able to show your partner grace in those moments and understanding is crucial. Because you just think about how many times in life have you done something or said that you wasn't going to do something and didn't follow through, or maybe you did something and it wasn't to the best ability and you knew that you could have done better. It's a lot of times that we hold ourselves back from reaching our potential as well. And so I think when you're in those moments and you think about, oh, well, how would I want someone to respond to me, or how would I want them to treat me if I wasn't doing this, or if I was lacking, or if, I didn't get this right necessarily, right? Mm-hmm. You will want them to show you that grace. And I think when people think outside of just, oh, how my partner is treating me, or, how it's affecting me, and it's now, oh, how is it affecting them? You can give and offer that grace a little bit. And I think that was the biggest thing for me personally to understand, is just that, it's not going to be, oh, we get this habit and we got this momentum and that is never going to happen again. It's like, no, I understand. Like you said, if you're having a moment, or if there's slack on your end, or you have things that you're wrapped up in, and I can't get what I'm expecting done at that moment from him, I can't just be ready to go into attack mode, right? Yeah. I have to be able to show him that grace and show him that understanding, and be like, you know what, I see that he's doing something. I see that, whatever is going on with him in that moment, or whatever reason that whatever I'm looking for is not happening. Let me think of how it is affecting him and what he's doing in that moment, and see things from his perspective, and give him that grace to say, you know what, I'm gonna let it slide. Yeah. I'm not gonna go to the next level. Let me just see how it folds out. And like I said, if it is me offering up something in return, or for me to do something, instead of me just expecting from him, taking, how about I give something so that you can see, okay, this needs to be done. I think that's important to do as well.
Yeah. And I want to be clear that by stopping the scorekeeping, that doesn't mean be silent. It doesn't mean don't talk about things that are going on in your relationship that you're not happy with. But it's about addressing it in the moment, like we talked about earlier. So therefore, there's no scorecard. Addressing
it in the moment and letting it go.
Yeah, exactly.
Because a lot of times we address it in the moment, but we hold on to it. We harbor it. Yeah. And it's like, oh, you can't do that. Like, we'll have that conversation and it may affect us, even if it's something that affects you to the point where you're very upset and frustrated about it, and you talk about it. Sometimes we still harbor that energy, right? Yeah. And it's just like, no, we're going to discuss it right now and we're going to let it go. Yeah. And when I say we're going to let it go, it's me, okay, even though we let it go in this conversation, don't bring it up in the next conversation or the next disagreement that we had. Like, oh yeah, remember when this happened? Well, wait a minute. I thought we hashed that out. So it's like we said, you're discussing it, you're resolving it, and you're letting it go completely. Because if you keep tally and keep resurfacing the things that you supposedly already addressed and resolved, that's not going to help anything.
Yeah. And I think that two things that I get from what you just said is, number one, there are going to be times when you're frustrated. Mm-hmm. But you have to change your perspective from being frustrated with your partner to being frustrated with his actions. Mm. Because a person can't change, their actions and behavior change. Right. So if you're focused on attacking the problem, if you're focused on attacking the action, then I think that you can come together to resolve those issues, because the reason why issues will continuously be brought up months or years down the line is that you never really resolve those issues. Mm-hmm. That's what me and you used to do in the beginning. We'll sit down and we'll try to talk about something and we won't come to a resolution. Right. Like it'll get so heated, we'll go our separate ways. We won't talk about it. We'll come back together like nothing even happened. Mm-hmm. And that's not the way. That's toxic. Right. That's not the way that you handle things, because months down the line, those same issues will be brought up, whether it be by me or you, and you'll sit back like, yo, I thought that we handled that months ago. I thought that we handled that weeks ago. It's like you didn't. You just swept it under the rug, and then something happened that triggered that person to think about the last issue that you had because it relates to what you're still going through right now. So I think that it's very important for you or for your union, the two people, to focus on attacking the problem and not the partner, but actually sitting down and learning how you can effectively communicate to resolve issues within your marriage.
Yeah. And so from you just saying that, I feel like I have these scenarios of things that
I feel like we're playing volleyball. We keep bouncing.
It's like these scenarios from the discussion, because a lot of times I feel like when we sit down and we have conversations, like you see other podcasts or you see other people like trying to teach you things and they're saying stuff, but it's not really like resonating with you because it's like, okay, that sounds good in theory, but it's like, how does this work, right? And I think that's the biggest thing that we try to offer is actual, not just the resources, but the scenarios and the things that you can implement to actually say, okay, this works. So how does that work? Okay, well, these are the steps to actually give you the tools to do that. And I think that's why it's like stuff keep coming to me, because it's like we don't want to just be like, oh, well, here's this. Now go figure out how it works. No, we personally have been in position where we needed those resources and we needed those tools. And once we got them, we were able to actually use them. Sometimes we need to use them better, but we actually use them and apply them to our relationship. And we've seen the growth and the change within our relationship. And so that's why I think like it's like it feels like that, because we're actually trying to, you know, help y'all. But when you were talking, I was just thinking about when you said, having the conversation and not resolving it, but then going back to it later. And a lot of times in our relationship, when we were doing, or in our arguments and disagreements, when we were doing that, it was because in those moments where we were so heated and escalated and things was like, you know, just getting to the next level, we weren't able to have those moments to self-soothe, or we weren't able to have those moments where they call repair attempts, to sit up there and say, oh, you know what, I see we're getting to this point. Let me like do something to kind of back down, because I don't want to argue with you, and I don't want to be aggressive. Right? Yeah. I'm not trying to win this argument. I'm not trying to win this war, this battle with you. No, I want us to actually resolve, because what comes from that is just another argument, right? And another disagreement. And so instead of doing it, it's like, okay, once we see that we're starting to escalate to a certain point, it's either we need to take time to, you know, relax, soothe, calm down, de-escalate things, and then go back to it, but not days later, right? You want to go back to it within that same day, because you don't want it just to trickle on to something else, because
you'll forget details.
Right. Not only that, but then other things occur. Like life happens, and then something else occurs. And now, like we said, now you're keeping score because something else added, and you're just adding it on. So you have that moment to like self-soothe, and then let's revisit this when we're both level-headed and not angry. And honestly, that is the hardest thing for me. I'm not going to lie, because when I'm passionate about something and I'm angry and I'm frustrated, I want to get it out. Okay.
We know. Tell her, y'all. We know.
I want to get it out. And a lot of people are like that. But I realized once I actually was able to use the time of self-soothing to my advantage, I was able to clearly think about the things that I wanted to say, for one, right? Because when I'm frustrated, I can't get out my point the way that I wanted to get out, right? It comes off maybe aggressive. It comes off to the point where you're not really listening, because it's harsh, right? Because I'm just
I just thought about something. What's that game that you and Arya started playing on PlayStation when I first got
Crash Bandicoot?
Yeah, that's what you say. when you get frustrated and you want to talk something, that's what I hear. Whatever that noise is when you playing that game.
I can't, y'all.
I'm glad you got better at it, because now I can understand you.
Listen.
Wouldn't they make that noise when you die or something?
I think so. When you
try to
like,
jump over the turtle or something,
and the little thing with the feathers, you got to get another life. Yeah,
they probably had no idea what we talking about. It's Crash Bandicoot. Y'all know. If y'all our age, you know.
Listen, y'all, when you actually take that time to like remove yourself, you can think about whatever is bothering you fully, and you can go back into the situation and resolve that, so that you're not adding it to something else later down the line. And I think doing that made a difference, because, okay, well, like you said, let's resolve this. Let's bury this, get rid of it, forget about it, let it go, and move on to the next thing. Because when you're in a relationship, it's always going to be things that occur. you're going to have disagreements. You're not going to be on the same page all the time. You may have an argument, but it's about how you resolve those things in the long run. That's going to determine the success of your relationship and the success of that disagreement, right? Yeah. So I think doing that is very beneficial.
Yo, I was just thinking about the times where me and you used to keep score about who was doing what and who wasn't doing what. And it really was a competition between us where we were trying to figure out who was going to be the winner. And when you take that approach to your relationships, when y'all have disagreements, when things are going wrong in your relationship and you're trying to come out on top, you're trying to prove that you're the better spouse, that you do more for the relationship, you will start to say some things to hurt your partner just so that you can stand victorious. And when you say those things, it's hard to come back from that.
Yeah.
Like you may say that in the heat of the moment because you're so passionate about what you're going through, what you're experiencing, how your partner makes you feel, that you will say something so hurtful so that they feel the pain that you're feeling internally. And sometimes you can say things that you can't come back from. And I think that in the beginning, when me and you did not have the tools or the knowledge or the skills to be able to effectively communicate what we were going through, we said some hurtful things to each other that then added more complexity to our relationship. But I think the thing that got us through it was the commitment that, listen, I know you didn't mean that. I saw the hurt and the pain in your eyes and in your voice, that I don't want to focus on what you said, but I want to focus on why you said it.
Right.
And when we were able to get to that point, it was a game changer for us, because if we would have continued down that path where it's like, I'm trying to cut off your arm so that I'm the winner, or you're trying to cut off my leg so that I'm the winner, there's no possible way you can have a healthy relationship when you're trying to put yourself, or you're trying to put your partner down so that you can stand on their back to make it seem like you were better than them.
But it's like when we talked about in the previous podcast about just loving your partner harder and to a certain level, right? It's just when you get into those moments where you're keeping score, you're having those disagreements and you're just focused on the negative, and like you said, you're just hashing out just blows left and right to just hurt your partner. You have to really sit back and think to yourself, like, is this what I wanted when I went into my relationship? Is this what I wanted when I went into my marriage? Like, this is not what I seen for myself, right? And I don't want my partner to feel that level of pain, right? When you get to a space, honestly, where you love someone so much that you don't want them to feel a certain level of pain, and you don't want to be the person making them feel that certain level of pain, then you're able to handle things better. You're able to see things better, and you're able to handle things better, because it's just like, at the end of the day, we know that we're going to all deal with some type of pain that we're not in control of, right?
Some people don't know that.
Unfortunately,
they think that a relationship is never going to be painful.
Yeah, but even if it's from outside forces, you're going to feel some level of pain within your relationship, right? Yeah. You're going to feel some level of pain as an individual, right? And as an individual, it affects your relationship. But when you realize that you don't have to be that person that's contributing that pain to your partner, and that you don't want to be, then you start to handle things differently. And that's what I think was the biggest thing for me, was just like, when I've seen in those moments where we were being combative, or we were keeping score, we were having those disagreements, and it was just like, if I say or do something that's hurtful and I saw how it impacted you, it's like, I didn't decide that I wanted to marry this man to hurt him. I didn't want him to feel heartbroken or upset because of my words or my actions.
Right. And
being able to see somebody in that light and being able to feel that, it makes you move differently in your relationship. It's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to, add that extra pain to this person for what? I want to love them. I want to take that pain away. Right. And so when you're able to do that, you're, like I said, you're giving that grace and that love and that support. That's just like, you know what? Let's do this the right way. Because what we've been doing it the wrong way, and we see where it's getting us. Right. So let's really figure this thing out. And that's when we're able to apply those tools and apply those resources and change the dynamic and have certain conversations and work through things, because at the end of the day, that's going to help you so that you're not keeping score of the negative things and trying to keep better score of the positive things, because it's like, I want my partner to feel full. I want my partner to be happy. I want my partner to be loved and supported. And I can offer all of that to you. And I have been offering all of that to you. And I want you to acknowledge it. And so you got to get to that space where you're loving your partner better.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is that I realized then, because before you had said some hurtful things to me in the past, and I really took it to heart. And I couldn't understand why you would say the things that you would say, right?
That's hurt people.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say.
Thing.
When I really reflected on it, it was like for years, you tried to communicate how you were feeling. Like you wanted me to see your pain. You wanted me to understand your pain. And because I wasn't open to empathizing or putting myself in your shoes, you went from wanting me to see and understand your pain to wanting to inflict pain. Because when somebody is trying to communicate with words, they're banging on the glass window. They're trying to get you to see them. They're trying to get you to understand what they're going through and how bad it's hurting them. And you continue to turn away from them. You don't want to listen. You don't want to take accountability. Then your partner starts to inflict pain. They start to do things to hurt you. They start to say things to hurt you. And when I realized that it was just a cry for help, I decided to make those changes. That doesn't mean that the things that you were doing were right.
Right.
But I had to understand, because we didn't start like this.
Right.
Nobody makes this type of drastic change for no reason. There's a reason behind everybody's behavior. And sometimes we don't have the skills or the tools to communicate how we're feeling. But it's all that anger is just an expression of that inner turmoil that we're going through, that inner pain that we're going through. So when I sat back, because number one, I had to get the knowledge and the skills in order to receive, because some partners can't even take their partner's pain.
Right.
They can't bear that pain. So when I became more emotionally intelligent and I understood what emotions were and how people express their emotions, I was able to show up more in our relationship to support your emotions, so that you didn't have to take it to that next level to get me to understand your pain. Because now I knew how to hear it, I knew how to receive it, and I knew how to handle your emotions with care.
Yeah, that's deep. And it's so true. I think a lot of people fail to realize, like you said, the shift in your relationship before it's too late.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest the biggest setback is when you're not being intentional with your partner to acknowledge those moments that's leading up to the blow up, right? The moments that's leading up to the demise, in a sense, of your relationship, the downfall of your relationship, because it's like this. It's going up and then it comes crashing down, right? And so I think once you're able to really acknowledge, like, okay, this person has been changing. This person has been acting different. The conversation have been shifting. The words have been hitting different, right? Yeah. It's not the same. The arguments is definitely getting a little bit more personal, right? Yeah. The jabs is jabbing right now, okay?
They turning into hooks.
Okay? Not physical. We ain't going there. We don't want to go there. Man. But literally, when you're literally attacking your partner with your words, you have to realize something is off. Right. You have to see the shift. And I think that's when you really need to have those deep, in-depth conversations. Because like you said, it was years of
knocking at the door,
just like trying to be vulnerable and trying to say, you know what, here I am. Right. Listen to me. See me. Okay. Acknowledge me. And I feel like when you're in a relationship where you don't feel seen and you don't feel heard and you are crying out for someone, once you get to that breaking point, it can be detrimental.
It reminds me of what Tupac used to say. For those who don't know, Tupac, growing up, favorite artist. He would talk about people who are going through hunger or who are struggling in life, and they know that you have a whole room full of food on the other side of that door. They gonna come up, they gonna knock on the door and say, hey, I'm hungry. You don't answer. They gonna come back, knock a little bit harder. Hey, I'm hungry.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta eat. And when you keep ignoring them, they just gonna bust that door down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I felt like we went through in our relationship, where you're knocking on the door. You're like, Devin, I'm hurting. I need things to change. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll get back to you. Then you come back, you knocking harder. Listen, I am hurting. I am going through some things internally that I don't know how to deal with. And I'm trying to come to you, my partner who is supposed to care about what I'm going through. And I'm like, all right, yeah, we'll get to it. And then eventually you're going to bust that thing down. And you're going to say, listen, you don't want to listen to me? Then I'm going to show you how much pain I am by making you feel what I'm going through. And it's so crazy to see your partner. And sometimes we just try to put the blame on them. Like, yo, you just acting crazy. Mm-hmm. Like, you just overreacting. But it's like, nah, they tried to. You didn't want to listen. So now you got to deal with how they're reacting to the situation because they try to handle it the right way and you wasn't really trying to hear it.
Yeah. I think that the biggest thing that you can do is, instead of keeping score, to have check-ins with your partner, right?
Yeah, that's good.
To do that and be able to be intentional to say, if it is, weekly, or maybe it is daily for you, to have those check-ins consistently, right? Not it be a month or 2 months, but constantly checking in and being intentional with that, to have those conversations of, how are you today? What's going on in your world? How do you feel? To really ask and know how your partner is feeling, to understand their inner world, so that you can provide whatever it is that they're needing from you as their partner, but to have that understanding so that when you do come across something where maybe y'all have a disagreement, or maybe, like I said, something may not be done in the manner of what you're expecting of them, you can understand, well, this is what showed up in their life this past week, right? Yeah. And maybe they can't perform to this ability over here because they have all of this going on. So how can I offer my support for them so that whatever it is that I look forward to them doing, I can kind of take the load off and help them, right? Yeah. And so when you have those check-ins, you're able to understand your partner, understand how you can be of help to your partner if they're going through something, so that, like we said, you're not keeping score of those negative things, but actually you're helping in the long run.
No, I agree. And I hope that, y'all find this episode really valuable, because we know that a lot of couples go through this, where you're keeping score, where you just, man, you're so hurt about where your relationship is at now, because we often envision where we want our relationship to be and how we want our life to be with this person that we love, that when it's not panning out that way, the first thing you do is just go on attack. So we understand that. We've been there before. And that's why we wanted to share our experience of how we went to keeping score against each other to now keeping score as a team. Like, we celebrate when we get the kids to school on time. We celebrate when we get them to bed on time. We celebrate when we are doing things for each other sometimes. Like, we don't try to focus on the negative. We try to look at the positives of what we're doing, because we know that it's those positive things that's going to make us feel like our relationship is strong. But when you just focus on the negative, you're going to miss out on the opportunity to grow.
Yeah. So, like you said, we hope you guys really received this episode. We hope you got something from it. And until next time, you guys, keep it real.
Yes, sir.